Ready? Play.
My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there and welcome to WTA Weekly. And I have a question already for the audience is, who is our most famous friend of the show? Is it Jasmine Paolini or is it Mr. Miles David? Miles, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Nick. I think if I had to answer that question, I'd give full edge to Jasmine Paolini. She's been to 2 Grand Slam finals, and I have not. So I'll give the edge to Jasmine Paolini. I've been to 2 Grand Slams in an audience setting, just not in the final. So I feel like I'd still give her the edge. So she wins.
I mean, look, I haven't either. So I think we need to do a straw poll of the Talking Tennis team to see who has. If you have been in a Grand Slam final and you were watching, let us know.
Yes.
Like playing or watching, we'll accept either. The bar to entry here is low. But hey, I think you don't have to know a lot to talk about tennis, as we know from being on tennis Twitter. But enough of that.
Luckily, we know a lot. Luckily, we can actually have a conversation about this wonderful sport. You know.
We can. It's true. I mean, look, I don't think either of us can quite live up to the expertise that Mert gave us in that last episode, but we'll try and live up to that. Let's talk about the WTA tennis that has been and gone. And I think there's only been a few. I think there's only a few stories from last week to really talk about. But I think Palermo is probably the place to start because Xiongqun Wen has managed to retain her title in Palermo with difficulty, it has to be said. But this has probably been her second biggest highlight of the year after reaching the Australian Open final, Miles.
I would say so, especially because we haven't seen her in another final at any level of the WTA tour since then. And she's kind of, she's played all the events, but she hasn't necessarily strung a whole bunch of matches together in a row. So this was nice to see her lift another trophy in Palermo. And I watched quite a bit of her throughout the week. And she mentioned it in her trophy speech that she just likes the conditions and Palermo holds a special place in her memory. And I can see it all in her game. I saw it throughout the week, just the way that she was swinging with kind of, I don't want to say reckless abandon, but she does have a very interesting swing off of her serve and forehand that I really enjoy watching when it's working, and it was working all throughout Palermo. So it was good to see her put some match wins together.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like she hasn't been. I mean, she's got to a few big quarterfinals, right? She's been to another couple of 1,000 quarterfinals. I don't think she made the French quarters this year.
No, and she just got off the loss, which I guess has aged well. But she lost first round to Lulu Sun at Wimbledon. But Lulu went on to win a couple more matches and get to the quarterfinals. So I guess that aged well because it means her opponent was playing well. But
yeah.
Mostly between Australia and now, it's been lukewarm results. Like they've been warm enough to keep her in the conversation, and I think still keep her in the top 10. But nothing has been super exciting, sort of like that run to Australia was.
I don't think, though, these have been results that we would say she doesn't deserve to be top 8, though.
Oh yeah, she deserves to be in the conversation, and even more so now that I've like watched a lot of her matches this past week. But it just I kind of expected, maybe to my own detriment, I expected her to take that final run and you know, play better in a section of the season that I think is advantageous for her, which is the clay. Because I mean, it shows now that she's the titleist in Palermo. But I thought she would, just have a little bit more confidence, and I hadn't seen it brimming through until this week, so that was good to see as well.
I think what I find interesting about Zheng, and I'd love to kind of get your view on it, is obviously she's a big hitter. That's what's attracted, what most people noticed about her when she first came on the scene a few years ago. She's still only 21, so she's still very young in her career. But it seems very clear that clay is the surface she might be most comfortable on. And I'm wondering why that might be. Is it because she likes the movement? Is it because she has enough spin with the power that it works and comes off the clay? What do you think it is?
I think it's a mixture of all of those things. She really does. Her game suits the surface because it gives her just that little bit more time to produce her shots. And she's able to track down balls a little bit easier due to the sliding. And she just is able to use her athleticism that is kind of sneaky good. And something you didn't mention was, I believe she trained a lot in her formative years in Spain. And there's a bunch of clay courts for her to utilize there. So she just may have a natural gravitational pull to it because she's trained so much on it. And it kind of shows in her tennis. So I expect her to be in the clay court conversation for the next couple of years moving forward, barring any kind of major weird incident or injury. Her game adapts to it, especially if it's kind of hot and her ball is jumping up like it was in Palermo and she's hitting through the court. She's difficult to beat.
Yeah, and I agree with you with the time thing, because her swings are quite exaggerated at points. So the clay, that works well on clay, or at least clay is very kinder to that kind of kind of swing she has, particularly I'm thinking of her serve, but she does like have a big take back as well. So that would make sense. And hey, she could carve herself a little clay court corner in Palermo if she wanted to, because even the conniving Karina Mukova could not get past her in that final, which was really good match, actually. It kind of went, it kind of felt like Mukova kind of refusing to buckle against the momentum that Zheng had. She had some big strokes. She was coming up with some slices, some drop shots, some wonderful creativity. And when she was going for her shots, it was really effective. But I got the sense during that match that it was kind of Mukova pushing against the tide, as it were.
Yeah, she was pushing up against a player who was brimming with confidence of being back at a place that she liked and being back on a surface that she liked. And a lot of her matchups throughout the week were just advantageous for her. I forgot who she played in the quarters or semis. I'd have to look it up. But I know I was watching that match and I know I forgot who her opponent was because I was so focused on what she was doing on her side of the court. And it kind of just took me into a trance, I guess, if you will, to just see how comfortable she was out there. And
Zheng.
like, Zheng, even if she was missing, there was never an aura of this match is not mine. Almost every match she played, it felt like, whether she was ebbing in like a ebbing or flowing in whatever direction, it always felt like she was going to win that match, even in some of the sets that she dropped. So I enjoyed the final because of that too. Even though Mukova was putting up a good fight and it was good to see her back into a final at any level, given the injury issue she's had, it always, to me, because I had watched more of Qinwen than Mukova to get to that stage of the final, it felt like Qinwen had it and had it mostly throughout the match to me.
Yeah, you talk about Zheng. Yeah, she only dropped one set, and that was to Mukova, and that was a hard-fought set. But like looking at the people she beat, actually, it was a tough draw on paper. She beat Irani, Martic, Christian, Parry, and then Mukova.
It was the Parry match, yes, because Parry
match wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was. Parry was doing the kind of clay court craftsmanship that I felt like, in essence, could throw Zheng off of her game, but she just really wasn't. Every time there was a drop shot or like a really, really deep lob, Zhang was really taking control of the point. So that was the one that really stood out to me. Like, oh, she's not allowing this to kind of go in any other direction than the one she wants. Of course, she lost some points. Obviously, it's part of the game. But every time she went to the court and started to begin her serving process, I was like, yeah, she's probably going to win this point, and she won most of them and the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting some speculation in the live chat for this broadcast about whether a Mediterranean diet helps her, and yeah, now you're making Asian, you're making people hungry in the chat.
Oh, I love Mediterranean food, especially the extra virgin olive oil, tomatoes, cucumbers, black olives. Yeah, there's a place here in near New Orleans that makes a great chicken fattoush salad, and if you know what a fattoush salad is, it's very Mediterranean. So now I'm hungry.
That's the New Orleans thing to take a Mediterranean salad and add chicken to it.
Well, yeah, you probably have a point, but it's good. It's really good.
Like, look, American
chicken. It's grilled chicken. It's like chicken cooked Mediterraneanly, not fried chicken. Just for clarification.
Okay, that mitigates it.
Yes.
Bukova, third tournament back. She's in a final, and has enough points from being just in the Cincinnati final and the US Open semi-final from last year that she's still in the top 30 at least until Cincinnati. But she looked. I mean, her draw was very different. Like, it was a battle to get through.
Just the first round. The first round was such a battle.
Was tough.
Yeah.
Second round was tough. Third round was tough, and then Begu was not tough. Begu, she crushed her way through. I think she played herself into form by that point, which is probably why the final was so good, because Mukova figured it out. But yeah, third tournament back. I think playing herself into form is probably the best description for her at this point, given she's not played for a while before.
And I think it's what she needs. I think she may have been making the best decision for what her body allowed, but coming back on the grass didn't seem like the smartest idea. And now it still doesn't, especially when you compare her time on the grass at, I think, Eastbourne and Wimbledon to now a finalist run in Palermo. Her game suits the clay better. Oh, actually, she has an all-surface game, but I do think
she loves grass. Her base level on grass is really, really good. She got to Eastbourne quarters straight off the bat.
She does love grass, but she's made a Roland Garros final. So if I had to choose, I'd give her the slight edge in being that much more comfortable.
And I will. Most of her career finals have been on grass, on
clay. Yeah. So that was kind of like what I saw. Even though she was struggling with her body, really, she was taped, and she could have been out of the tournament first round. I actually watched the WTA YouTube highlights of her first round against Akugwe, the German-born Nigerian lefty, who I think has a pretty good future ahead of her. And that was very tricky, but she kind of weathered her own storm, and her body kind of adjusting to playing lengthy matches again, and the storm of her opponents, and that was the trend all week. So that was good to see. I just she kind of surprised me in a way, Mukova did, because I can't say that in the time she's been off tour, I've heavily thought about her or like wanted her back in the mix. I know that kind of sounds a little bit harsh, but it's the truth. And this week reminded me of what she brings to the court that not everybody else does. And I do have an appreciation for it. I'm just not 100% sure if I'm going to get duped again, because I've had this process with Mukova where she shows me exactly how much of an all-court and all-surface player she is. She gets to a huge semifinal or a final of a tournament, Grand Slam, 1000, what have you, and then like the momentum shortly fades after because of her body letting her down and her not being able to kind of really take the full rigors of the WTA Tour week in, week out, which is tough, but the best players in the world know how to manage it. And I'm just uncertain if she has figured that out or will figure that out. Especially now that what is her I guess win-loss record in finals now? It's not that great, because
1-4.
Yeah, it's not amazing. And maybe she was the underdog in this match against Zhang Qinwen, but that kind of just adds to
I did look it up. So the finals that she's been in before now, her first final ever final, careers final, was 2019. She lost to Jill Teichmann. Not a bad loss, I don't think, at that point in Teichmann's career.
In hindsight, it hasn't aged that well, but sure.
Well, the point they were both out in their careers.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that wasn't that in Prague?
Possibly. I know Mukova's next title was on clay.
No, the only title she has, the one title she has is in Korea, which was a 250 in 2019 on hard.
Yeah, so she won that, and I thought she won a clay tournament.
I think the same thing too. It's weird that like on paper she has been to the semifinals, or at least the quarterfinals are better of every single. Quarterfinals are better at every single major, but that one WTA title is in Korea on a hard court. It just is kind of inexplicable.
Yeah.
She's
made 3. Yeah, her 5 finals, 3 on clay, 2 on hard. I don't know why I thought that was it. But yeah, she crushed Magda Linette in that final, 1-1. Destroyed Linette. Didn't then get back into another final for 4 years, and that next final was the French Open, which was she could have won, maybe, probably. She was a breakup in the decider against Swiatek. Then Coco in Cincinnati.
At Cincinnati, yeah.
And then Zheng in Palermo in a court that she loves. So 3 final losses to top 10 players is not bad. She should have beaten Linette, maybe. I don't know. Linette can be a really tricky player. Just was on her day. Just wasn't Linette's day on that day. And the Teichmann loss was, I think the score ended up being 7-6, 4-6, 6-4. So it was a
tight match. I just, on paper, when you list out her achievements on paper, and when I see her play with my own two eyes, I should be rolling off in my mind, in theory, a lot more achievements for Mukova at this stage of her career and her age, given how long she's been on tour. But it's not translating to her.
That's because she's been injured.
Yeah, so she's kind of a conundrum in my head. Like, when I watch her play, I see all the things that make up a good tennis player. It's just the one huge thing is that it seems like her body is the thing that kind of really truly ebbs and flows as to how much it can really take on the tour. So it's kind of frustrating.
That's difficult to control, right? I mean, we saw that with Anna Konyu. Whenever she was on, she was she did a couple of interesting things, but
that's such a great name to throw back, Nick.
Yeah.
I like Anya Konyu.
Yeah, Anya Konyu was great, but it's just her body's not working out, and I don't think that's anyone's particular fault. Right,
it's just hard. Yeah, it's sports. It can be difficult.
But yeah, I am optimistic that if Mukova hits a run of health at the right point, she will get herself another title, and I am very confident it could be a big title. I'm of the opinion that if she is healthy at a Grand Slam, she is a contender to win it.
Are you saying that based off of the recency bias of her Czech sisters lifting Grand Slam titles out of nowhere, like Vondrousova?
No, I'm basing it on how she played in the French Open last year.
Fair enough, because she could have won that match. If she probably was playing anybody else, the way she played, she would have won it.
Yeah, and like the way she took out Sabalenka from nearly being out. She's got some. She took out Ash Barty in Australia in her career. Like, this is a really dangerous player in Mukova, and I think she's got so many tools in her.
So you're erring on the side of optimism when it comes to her career. Is that the stance you're taking?
I am erring on the other side of optimism because of what we've seen from her and how good she can be, and we've seen with the WTA, right, that right place, right time happens.
Fair enough. I just quickly looked at her bio. She turns 28 this year in August, next month. A couple of days. Well, no, like a month from now or so.
Don't rule anyone out at 28. Jasmine Paolini taught us that.
I was thinking Jasmine Paolini. I was also thinking Stan Wawrinka, players that had shown that they had the ability to really bother the best players in the world, but just didn't really put it all together until that late 20s, early 30s. I would just err, because I don't want to make a fool out of myself. I'd err on the side of being just a little bit pessimistic in her career trajectory. I think she can add another WTA title. I'm just not. I wouldn't put myself out there and say it's going to be a 1,000 or a slam. It's just she's shown me enough to where like she can win 5 and 6 matches in a row. But at some point, given just the overarching history that I've of watching Mukova, some point there's going to be an issue with her body, and I think that opens up the window to the next person in the locker room or directly across the net from her and her opponent. So I think she's a great player, and I want to see more of her. I'm just preparing myself to kind of still be on the Mukova train of ups and downs.
Here's what I will say on that. I think it's very easy to be wrong when talking about tennis, right? Like, I think we're wrong more often than we're right. We're about half. It's about 50-50. And I would much rather be wrong being pessimistic about a player than be wrong. I'd rather be wrong being pessimistic about a player. Hang on. I'd rather be wrong being optimistic about a player.
Yes.
Yeah. Than being wrong being pessimistic about them, because I think you look more like more of an idiot if you do them down and then they do something that's kind of worth achieving. And I think it's also better to give hope rather than whatever the opposite is.
Fair enough. I see a lot in her game, and I see opportunities for her to compete with the best. And I just my gut feeling leads me to believe that I'll land on the side of slight pessimism. I know that sounds harsh, but I'll land on that side. But you said a really good thing that, like, you know, sometimes it's easy to be wrong about things in tennis. I know one thing that is very easy to be right about when it comes to Karolina Mukova, and that is her eyebrows. Like, I don't consider myself like an eyebrow aficionado, top tier of the world. However, when I went bald, you can't see it now because I have a hat, but when I went bald years ago, I realized just how much of an importance your eyebrows are on your face. And every time I see Mukova, her eyebrows look perfect. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea or anything they're paying attention to on the tennis court, but this is me. And they look amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Miles. Now, if we ever meet in person, I'm going to have a look at your eyebrows to see how well groomed they are, and if you could stand by your assessment there.
They are. I do take good pride in managing my eyebrows when I go to the barbershop. But whatever Mukova does, I think we'd have a good conversation about it, because hers are flawless. She posted a picture on Twitter with the runner-up plate in Palermo with her team, and all I could see was just her amazing eyebrows. Like, they're full, they're well-shaped. Like, she just has a blessing.
Karolina Mukova, you're probably not watching this. We may be divided over your prospect of winning trophies and big trophies, but one thing we are willing to say is you have amazing eyebrows, girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, there we go. Did not think that was going to be coming out of my mouth at any point in my life, but we move on. So, and yes, this is Eyebrows Weekly, according to Shauna in the chat.
I'm now the new talking tennis eyebrow aficionado. Look, there's more proof. There's more proof. Thank you, producer, great extraordinaire. That is great proof.
If anyone's listening back to this on the audio podcast, there's plenty of Google images of Karolina Mukova to back us up here. I want to quickly talk about Budapest. It wasn't I don't think there were many stories to come out of that, but I think we'd be remiss not to mention Diana Schneider winning it. I've seen in the live chat a few people wanting us to talk about her. And yeah, another title for Diana Schneider in 2024. And she's starting to rack up those points now, Miles, and starting to show the promise that she gave when she appeared at the Australian Open as an amateur and took on Sakkari.
Are you ready for this? She's making me raise an eyebrow.
Oh, man. Why do we?
I had to do it. I had to do it because she genuinely is making me raise an eyebrow. I personally want to go on record and say you can go back and look for my tweets with Schneider's name in them. I was a fan as soon as she pushed Maria Sakkari in the second round of Australian Open 2023. I saw it, and I have to be honest, I'm a little bit what's the word? What's the word I always use? I have a soft spot for lefties, especially lefties who took the college route and played a year at North Carolina State. I enjoyed that, and she has made me, back to what we were saying about Mukova, I feel like I put a lot of stock in her, and she's making me feel great about my my thoughts and opinions on tennis, because she's now won 3 titles just this year alone on 3 separate surfaces. This latest one is on clay. And I think it puts her in a good conversation for the rest of the year, because I think she's now a top 30 player, career high. And I think she qualifies to go to the Olympics. I know there's some interesting murky waters with her, representing Russia, and Russia not really being able to compete in the Olympics, quote, quote. But if she goes in there with this kind of confidence, winning 3 WTA titles and the last one being on clay, I certainly wouldn't want to be across the net from her.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, look, she's showing a lot of promise, and her game's pretty explosive. And I think in some ways she was very unfortunate at Wimbledon to get injured halfway through against Emma Navarro, because she was kind of steamrolling that match up until that point, and then it became close. And I think it could be a very big what if she hadn't run into problems. She was the one who played Goff in the 4th round. And then an interesting alternative timeline at Wimbledon opens up for Deanna Schneider.
I don't see why we don't live in a world where she can't be contending for 1000s and Grand Slams in the next 12 months. I
agree.
She has a very, from following her on Instagram and just kind of seeing the vibe, she has a real dogged determination to get the best out of her tennis as soon as she possibly can. That's the vibe I get from her. She's not waiting to kind of like test the waters on tour. She wants to win immediately at all costs. Even if she has to strap up her elbow, her ankle, and her knee simultaneously, she wants to win, and she's going to go out there and give it her best shot. So I enjoy that about her. She's scrappy. She's a lefty. And like I said, I wouldn't want to be across the net from her. I mean, actually, now that I say that, the next time I watch her, I have to like really nail down what her strengths are outside of me just liking her and being a lefty. I need to really analyze what she does well to get to the point that she's now won more WTA titles than Maria Sakkari has in her career.
I think she's just a tricky flat lefty striker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how I would assess it. And we'd be interested to see if anyone's other assessments in the live chat about sort of what she does. But she clearly has an all-court game. A lot of confidence. I would be with you in thinking that, she's young, she's still got ways to go, but we could be talking about her as a Grand Slam contender one day. I mean, I don't know if she fully counts as a college player, because she actually dropped out of college to pursue a pro career. And I don't think she barely started.
Hey, I like the narrative, Nick. I like the narrative.
Yeah, but the narrative needs to be true, Miles.
Well, but it is factual that she attended college and played college tennis. The length of time is, the length of time. But it is true that she was enrolled at a college university in the United States, competed, and then was like, hold on, I think that match against Sakkari probably helped make her decision. Like, hey, like, I know I could probably do this for 2 or 3 more years and get the college experience, but clearly something I'm doing with my game is measuring up to the best of the best. So let me make the best of that while I can. And that's kind of how she plays. It's like, hey, I'm playing well right now, and let's do this thing right now. I think she's only 20, if that, 19, 20.
Yeah, she's 20.
Yeah, she has that kind of free-flowing mindset and just really focused on getting the best out of herself right now. And that's easy to root for as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we've got a couple of comments in the chat about her game. Asian Draymond is saying that Schneider can redirect the ball pretty good. And what we've got on the screen here is Kirit saying that Deanna Schneider hits the ball harder than anyone he's seen live except Towson. I'd love to know who you'd seen live, Kirit, but I know you've seen quite a few lower ranked players.
Yeah. Have you seen Deanna Schneider live hit the ball? I'd love to. No, I was the commenter.
Kirit, yeah, Kirit.
Yeah, I would love to see I'd love to know what event that was, because I haven't seen her up close, and I'd love to, just to kind of make sure that I'm not making up things in my head and the TV isn't lying to me. But yeah, she's a good one. I enjoyed, although I have to be honest, I didn't watch a lot of her live competition because Budapest was a hard watch. There was barely a seat. There was barely a person sitting in the seats until the finals day, which I think is rough. But I mean, she played in front of who she played in front of and won the best points, and she's a champion.
I mean, I also have to say she kind of crushed her way through the draw, but there weren't really any other names in the tournament that you were looking at and going, like serious threat, like maybe Cerebus Tormo on a good day for her, or Magdalena Freck. Sasnovich gave it a good go in the final, 6-4, 6-4. It was one break each way. But I think also Schneider was helped by the fact she was by far the strongest player in that draw, and it wasn't super competitive. But you're right, like the setup there did have that sort of lower grade feel to it. Kirit saying that he saw Deanna Schneider at an ITF in Charlottesville. So yeah, he saw her early.
Yeah, in the development phase, which technically she's still in. And she's racking up WTA tour titles. So I think that's awesome. And if she can put it together here, because she's won. I think there was a moderate crowd when she won the title the week before Wimbledon at Bad Homburg.
Yeah,
there was a 500. She's shown that she can kind of win wherever she is on the globe, you know. So I'm excited to see where she goes from here and how her game matches up with like the really elite of the elite. Because I don't think we've seen her compete against Iga, Coco, Sabalenka, or Rybakina or Krejcikova.
Yeah,
so I want to see that and see where she really measures up, because I don't think she has a head-to-head against any of those players, partly because of her age and the level of tours, the level of tournaments that she's been playing, and because of those players not playing in Budapest and Huahin and Bad Homburg as much as she would prioritize them. So yeah, that's the next step I think for her, or one of the next steps.
Yeah, she's got to see how she measures up against those guys. You're absolutely right. All right. I think speaking of those guys, it's probably time to start looking forwards. Now, our show does say Olympics preview. We are going to get there. But I do want to mention the fact there are 2 WTA tournaments that have already started. One in Iași in Romania and one in Prague. Iași, there's only one player in the top 50 there.
Ooh.
And actually, the second highest ranked player is number 60. The top seed in Iași is Mira Andreeva.
Oh, that probably is the first time she's been top seed at a WTA level tournament, isn't it? That's kind of notable, I guess.
So. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And we're talking about Iași, Romania, right?
Yeah, Iași in Romania. Yeah, so number 2 seed is Tatiana Maria. So it's interesting one. I think I'm not 100% sure. I think I know Andreeva. I think she should have been playing today at some point, maybe.
Oh wow, she's won already. She beat the same player that Mukova beat in the Palermo first round, Akugwe of Germany.
For me, this is kind of I think it's going to be an interesting tournament for Mira because she crushed
her,
yeah. Because Akugwe could have been a problem for her, I think, when her
absolutely, yeah.
And Tatiana Maria is already out. Never mind. So the second seed is already out in the Iași. So there's literally Andreeva's the only top 60 seed left in the draw.
Sorry to any Romanians that are watching this or listening to this back. We are not doing a great job of selling this tournament. But
look, if
you should
go. Good Romanian players in the draw, and they always do well, and they always produce for the crowd. Like Christian's playing.
I was just about to say Jacqueline Christian. She's like been on my like 3rd tier radar list. Like I don't expect her to rock up and get to a semis of a slam anytime soon. I could be making a fool of myself the next 12 months. Who knows? But when I have seen her
semi-finalist 2024,
when I have watched, I'm like, oh, she plays a lot better than I thought she did, given that I had minimal knowledge about her game style. So yeah, she's quite a fighter and a pretty better than average tennis player out there. So maybe this is her time to shine. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be her time to shine. I think I'm looking at the other, like Elena Gabriela Rusa is also playing. She got a wild card. So there's opportunities for Romania to do interesting things. But yeah, I agree with you. Christiane is a player who could do exciting things in draws. She did in Charleston this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not?
There's also Ekaterina Makarova reincarnated. Not the Ekaterina Makarova of the 2010s. That was very consistent and a really good doubles player. But there's just another Ekaterina Makarova. I don't think there is a relation.
No, there isn't.
But she's in this draw as well.
It's a bit
Just-
like saying. I think it's kind of a really just common name, like Sarah Smith. Like there's possible that there's two women of that name who could end up playing tennis a generation apart from each other. But there's a story I have about Ekaterina Makarova, the original. One of the first times I queued for Wimbledon, I went with my mum. It was in 2018, and we were actually stood in the queue next to a Russian PhD student who'd come to queue because she wanted to see Makarova because she liked watching her play. Being Russian and obviously enjoying her, and he's like, "Oh well, hope you get in and whatnot." And that was the day that Makarova beat Wozniacki when Wozniacki was number 2 in the world.
On center court or court 1 of those. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember I think we were sat on court 12, my mum and I. We looked up and we saw the live score. We're like, that lady's going to be living her best life right now that she got to be there for that match.
Yeah, that's a good story. And Makarova's been a 2-time Grand Slam semifinalist, by the way. I think back to back. 2014 US Open and 2015 Australian Open. So yeah, she had a good stretch there in her career.
Yeah, she was a very strong singles and doubles player.
Yeah.
But I don't know too much about the Mark II. I don't think she's quite hit those heights yet.
Don't know much about her, but wishing her luck.
Yeah. But I think going back to Mira Andreeva, her fellow Russian, this feels like an interesting moment for Andreeva because she's that far ahead of everyone else, but she's had a real patchy run since that French Open semi-final where kind of the expectation of her winning the match might have got to her a little bit. So I'm interested to see how she kind of handles being the overwhelming favorite to win a title at 17, having just come off an underwhelming Wimbledon performance following on immediately from a Grand Slam. So kind of key test for where she's at mentally, I think.
I would agree. I like the way you set that up. And I think she needs to put herself at least in the final weekend to kind of get the most out of this tournament. Because ultimately people are looking at her to kind of get in the mix with the people that are her peers in age. Like we were talking about earlier, Diana Schneider, Coco Gauff, Raducanu, some other, late teens, early 20s type players. And oh wow, she's even younger than that. She's 17. Wow,
She's 17, Miles.
That is insane. Like, sorry, let me dial it back. Let me dial it back.
Brenda Kvitova and Sarah Bayek.
You're right. Let me dial it back.
And this other 16-year-old who's just won in Prague.
No idea.
I'll get back to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, if she doesn't lose, if she doesn't win the event, it's obviously not the end of the world. But I do think, given where people are trying to start to put her name in conversations, I think it would be good for her to have a strong showing at the event for sure. And is she going to the Olympics?
I'm really confused about the Olympics. I haven't looked at the Olympics set up for entrance for a while. We'll probably look at it maybe when we get there. Yeah. It's Samson, by the way. Laura Samson is a 16-year-old Czech who's just beaten a Croatian qualifier called Vrth 6-love 6-2 in Prague.
There's a lot going on in Prague. And Iashi.
Yeah.
So there's for both of those tournaments. I know we haven't talked about Prague yet, but there's opportunity for somebody to be like, hey, I want a WTA title.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, and Andreeva, that would be her first title if she won Iashi, right?
Yeah, for most of anybody that lifts the title in both of these tournaments, it's likely going to be somebody that doesn't have a glittering long resume. So it's going to be a moment for their careers.
I think there's a few decent players with some decent highlights in Prague. You've got top seed is Linda Noskova. Second seed is Katerina Siniakova. Third seed Angelina Kalinina. Fourth seed Magdalenette. They're kind of your kind of bread and butter WTA players, right? They've had a couple of one-off peaks at big events, semis or finals at a Masters or a Grand Slam. Okay, Noskova hasn't, but that shouldn't be too far away for her.
So I don't believe Noskova has a WTA title yet either.
No.
She got to the final. I think she got to the final in Prague last year, but it was played on a hard court, and she lost to a lucky loser, now Habino.
I'm looking this up now.
In the final, I remember because it was
that's right, with 6-4, 6-1, because we were expecting Yoshida to win that one.
Yeah, and it was played on a Monday because of all the rain. Wow. My WTA brain works much better than I give it credit for. But yes, I mean, like I mentioned before, it's an opportunity for somebody to add some silverware where they already were kind of lacking some or ready to kind of get their hands on a trophy, or somebody like Lynette or Sinyakova that you mentioned. They're not taking for granted anytime they get to lift the trophy. So, you know, more power to all of them.
I mean, there's a possibility that next WTA Weekly episode we could be talking about 2 teenage tour champions, Andreeva and Noshka.
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
I mean, there will be, obviously, I'm not saying no other story will be interesting, but I think that would be something to distract us from the Olympics.
It would probably give us the most clicks if Noskova and Andreeva are the champions. Just saying.
Oh yeah, probably. There's a good chance of that. Right, let's talk about the Olympics. And it's kind of difficult to talk about the Olympics at this point because the draw's not out yet. I did see a question in the chat earlier about where we can see the schedule. If you go to the Olympics website, it gives you a day-by-day schedule for every single sport. So tennis starts at 11 o'clock Paris time on Saturday. It might be 11 o'clock my time, actually. I didn't check whether it was GMT or CET, but 10 or 11 a.m. CET. And we've obviously got a few players involved. There, Iga Swiatek is the top seed. Arina Sabalenka is not playing. Coco Gauff and Elena Rybakina are. Yeah. Do we have a list of players somewhere that we can have a look at?
I was actually looking down in my Twitter bookmarks because I could have sworn I bookmarked
Yeah,
somebody.
I've been retweeting them, and then like I need to get my device in front of me with it on.
I'm looking for the information. I just can't find it, unfortunately. But
yeah,
those,
I mean,
just starting with those names.
There has been a withdrawal today in the women's, and then obviously her catch withdrew from the men's. But I did catch there was a relatively well-known name withdrawing from the women's as well.
Marketa Vondrousova.
Vondrousova, yes. So she's
and
not
she
playing.
won, and she won silver at the most recent Olympics in Tokyo 2021. So yeah,
it's a good thing she's not defending points from it.
This is true. Yeah, that's true. But I also think maybe this is just because I came across a clip of Iga playing what I think was at the time the most exciting tennis I've seen from her, the 2020 French Open. I'm interested to see what Iga shows up again at Roland Garros, but under different circumstances, playing for her country and on her most beloved surface at her most successful event. I'm interested to see like what, given all those circumstances I just said, what conjures up in her. Like, are we going to get some extraordinary level similar to what Serena put on in the 2012 Wimbledon or 2012 Olympics that were held at Wimbledon? Or is it going to be kind of more of a burden for her? This is the most interested I've been in watching Iga in a little while, actually. I kind of can't wait just to see what it's going to mean to her and how she's going to perform. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I just watched some highlights of her playing Simona Halep back in 2020, and that was so exciting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, because on paper, this should be Iga's dream event. It's
hers to lose on paper.
Baking hot on clay on a court that she barely loses on.
Yep.
But you're right. There is this extra pressure she has with playing the Olympics, where, you know, let's see how that plays on her. Now, I think she just put a lot of pressure on herself to win anyway, especially when it comes to Roland Garros. I think you can tell when watching her that I think she believes that if she doesn't win, it's going to be a massive letdown.
Especially given this perfect storm that we've just described, like middle of or July into August, it's hot in Paris. She's playing at a place that she just won at a couple weeks ago. She's the overwhelming favorite on the WTA tour on this surface. Like, it's a perfect storm, kind of put in front of her on a platter to go and get your first Olympic gold medal. And sometimes that can, ramp up the pressure to the point that it cripples you, or it can give you that extra spark that you need to be laser focused. And I'm interested to see where she falls on that spectrum.
I guess we just won't know until she starts playing, right? But even if Iga is unfocused, it's still going to take a heck of an effort to take her down, as we saw with Naomi Osaka this year, Karolina Muchova last year, Zhang Qinwen the year before. I think this version of Iga is going to be very difficult to beat in a lot of ways, to be honest.
I also think Coco Gauff positions herself nicely to go deep at the Olympics. I think she's also someone that she doesn't have a Roland Garros title. Yeah, I was going to say she doesn't have a Roland Garros title, but she loses to either the eventual champion or somebody close to it every year. And who knows? This could be another really good marker in her budding career. So yeah, I think, and she's already said how much that being an Olympian means to her. So in her own way, I'm kind of interested to see what that brings out of her, whether it's focus or nerves. So that'll be interesting to kind of watch with Coco as well.
Here's a question. Do you think if Iga wasn't in the Roland, wasn't playing, Coco Gauff would have 2 Roland Garros titles?
I think it tremendously ups her percentages of winning. Yeah. Like, it's easy to be like, yeah, of course she would. But the last 2 times she lost to Iga won the title, right? 2023 and now 2024.
And 2022.
Yeah, and 2022. Yeah, I lean towards saying yes, but there's a bunch of different things that could happen.
Like 2023, she would have had to deal with Muchova in that final, and that would have been that one would have been difficult to call. I would probably edge Muchova, to be honest.
True, but now with the benefit of hindsight, we've seen how Muchova kind of plays in finals, specifically against Gauff in Cincinnati. So, maybe 70-30, I would lean towards Coco.
Yeah, Gauff does have a good matchup with Muchova for some reason. And then 2024, it would have just depended on how Paolini was.
And I believe Paolini has a win over Coco. I might be wrong about that.
There's all ifs, buts, and maybes. I think we're in an interesting position here with the Olympics singles because, like, on paper, the top 3 medals should be locked down. But we know how it is with the WTA, and someone having a great day can change that. But on paper, you're looking at your gold medal, silver medal, and bronze medal being distributed between Swiatek, Gauff, and Rybakina.
But I mean, I know she just won her 2nd Grand Slam title on grass, but Barbora Krejcikova knows how to win at Roland Garros as well. So her name is in the mix. She's won a gold medal in doubles at the last Olympics. So, on paper, she's a threat as well now again, too. And somebody mentioned in the chat here, Jasmine Paolini, who we just mentioned. I mean, she was just in the final of Roland Garros. She was just in the final of Wimbledon. She's playing the absolute best tennis of her career. I think she wants to get her hands on that crowning moment of, hey, I'm not just a finalist, I'm a winner. So that might give her some extra motivation to go get a gold medal. And, there's probably some players that are itching to get on that court and really show out for their country, a la Monica Puig 2016, that we haven't even conceptualized as a potential medalist. So I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah, I think, look, it's a little bit, the lack of uncertainty is there because we just don't know. Interestingly, Paolini is going to be the 4th seed. So that's really cool for her. So she's going to avoid at least one of the top 3 until the semi-finals. And we know that she's avoiding Rybakina for sure. So I guess it depends on whether she's going to end up in Iga's half or Coco's half. I'm just looking at the list of players. I found a list of players. It's by country. Interestingly, Muchova is playing for Czechia, as is Noskova. So Muchova could have something to say. Zhang Qinwen's obviously in the mix as well.
Yes, yeah, for sure, absolutely, yeah.
How good she is on grass. We have the neutral athletes. Alexandrova, Andreeva, and Schneider are all playing.
We talked about Schneider earlier. And yeah. The more we talk about this Olympics, the more I'm interested.
Osaka is playing for Japan. Ostapenko is playing for Latvia. Never
count her out.
Ostapenko. And then, yeah, and obviously the US, you've got Coco Gauff, Jessica Pegula, Danielle Collins, and Emma Navarro.
Collins is interesting to me now that you've brought her name up, because this is the first and last time by her announcements that she's going to play in the Olympics, and she's really busted her chops to be able to qualify, because had the Olympics happened last year or at the beginning of the year for whatever reason, she wouldn't have qualified. And now that she had the spring into the summer that she's had with 2 really good performances and on clay tournaments in Madrid, Rome, and she also got to the final of Stuttgart right before French Open. She has, you know, a level of confidence on the clay courts, and she's going to be giving it her all because this is her last year on tour. So that could be an interesting story to follow as well.
It could well be. Yeah. I think Collins finishing a career as an Olympian is going to be very, very special for her, regardless of how things go. Excuse me. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how the draw falls on the Olympics. They haven't really said when the draw's coming out, which is a problem. But I guess we'll find out when we find out. But I'm looking forward to seeing how that all kind of plays out really in Roland Garros. It's going to be a fascinating tournament to follow. I think another thing that we've got to think about is, depending on how the Olympics go, Canada's going to be a really wide open tournament.
I think the rest of the summer is going to be not wide open based off just the Olympics, but it's going to be interesting because there's going to be a surface change that is really quick for a lot of at least the top 4 players we just mentioned. Iga, Coco, Rybakina.
And time zone.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they manage all of that, with their body responds to why some players, and like, I guess to see in hindsight how some of the players that chose not to compete at the Olympics, how they do on the hard courts. Do they take advantage of the fact that they have more rest in their body? It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. And that's kind of why I like, you know, this time of the year, or when the Olympics rolls around, I should say. It just adds an extra intrigue. Like, points or prize money out of the way, like that doesn't matter right now. It really is about who wants to be the best tennis player for themselves and for their country. And I think in a way that's just as, if not more, meaningful than playing for points and prize money. Like, this is, in my mind, I would describe it as like one of the reasons you pick up a racket and start playing tennis, let alone any sport. Like, if it's a sport that is acknowledged and recognized in the Olympics, like, you can't get a higher honor than say, hey, I'm medaled at this individual sport that I've played for X, Y, and Z amount of years at the Olympics. So I think it's important for players that have chose to compete.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, it's clearly special for players, especially, it does depend on what country they're from to a certain extent. But I'm excited for. I think whoever wins it is going to be overjoyed, and like, we saw how Monica Puig reacted when she won. Belinda Bencic, Serena Williams, gold medals meant a lot to her. Yeah, and like, you do have to beat the best of the best.
You know what I just thought about?
What?
Forgive me.
I was going to the 2012 final.
No, well, that's amazing. I need to go back and rewatch that just for nostalgia purposes. But you said that, like, everyone is super excited and, like, obviously gleeful after winning a gold medal. My mind then went to Rybakina. If she wins a gold medal, what are we going to get?
A fairly chill response.
Fairly? I think my refrigerator is more chilly. Actually, no, she's more chilly than my refrigerator. So I don't know.
I mean, look, I actually think that's really cool, to be honest, that she's like that. I love it. I love, like, I find it badass that she's that kind of contained and she gives you nothing. And yeah, it's kind of like that whole cool guys don't walk away from it, just walk away from explosions thing.
Yeah, I think, yeah, she's the swig of tea, if that's what you like, for sure.
I mean, look, I'm a Roger fan. He kept that sort of steely glare throughout a whole match, and very rarely, occasionally he would show emotion. But I find Rybakina.
Was it occasionally? I feel like every time, if you do a montage of how many times he won a championship. He was like, it wasn't
Well, it all
something
kind of
you have to
exploded
debate.
out on match point, but during a match, I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I just wish, me personally, because now that you described it, and anytime somebody describes why they find that angle of Rabakana or like that expression of Rabakana fun for them, I respect it. It's just not my flavor of tea. As somebody says, I always want to trash Rabakana. I'm just saying it's not the flavor that I personally like, but I have to talk about it because she's quite frankly relevant every week of the year on the WTA tour, so I can't ignore it. You know?
Are you saying that, like, when you're watching a movie, kind of the ice cool character who kind of carves their way through their opponents isn't cool?
Okay. No, I don't lean to those kind of action movies. I like explosions and good character narratives. Like I was just watching a clip from Bad Boys 2 the other day, and part of the best, I don't know if you're familiar with that franchise, but part of the one of the best parts of the movie is, you know who Will Smith is though, right?
Oh yeah, I've watched that. I know of the movies. I've seen clips.
Yeah. Will Smith is very engaging, and he, even amidst all the times where I guess he could be kind of cool, he's not, and he's like somewhere at a happy medium. But I know you know who this actor is, Denzel Washington. He has starred in The Equalizer, and his character is very emotionless and very kind of like a silent killer. I do appreciate that, but if I had to choose which movie I'd rather watch, I'd choose Bad Boys over the Equalizer franchise because I lean on the side of wanting to see emotion and things blow up and, you know, passion.
I, to be honest, would go with The Equalizer.
And that's fair. Both of those movies have made millions of dollars. So hey, there's an audience for everybody.
Yeah. Equalizer. The Bourne movies. Always love the Bourne movies.
Yeah.
Similar kind of thing in my mind. So yeah, there you go. That's kind of where I will defend Rebecca's on-court attitude,
and that's completely fine. She's a darn good tennis player. It's just not my cup of tea that I would pour in my mug. But that's why they make thousands of mugs and thousands of brands of teas.
Yeah, no, I know that like when we do these shows, I'm more of the Swiatek Rebecca person, and you're more of the Coco Arena person.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess you're not going to please everybody.
You can't.
I will try. I haven't got a bad thing to say about any of them, to be fair.
Yeah, they're all really, really darn good tennis players. All of them are slam champions. They're the top 4 in the world right now. And yeah, they are for the audiences that they are for, and people gravitate towards each and every one of them for their own reasons. It's not necessarily good or bad in certain contexts, but yeah.
There we go. So we've got Olympics previewed. I think the next episode of WTA Weekly, when that comes out, will probably wrap up everything that happens in Iași, in Prague. I don't know how to pronounce the Romanian tournament.
You were doing so good at it earlier. You taught me how to pronounce it. Iași?
Iași, I don't know.
We're gonna go with that.
I'm guessing. To be honest, I should have looked it up, but yeah, Iași, Prague, and then by the time we get there, if we're doing this on Sunday, the first round of the Olympics should have been completed, so we can talk about progress and how far everyone's got through the draw. Like if we've had any first round shocks, what everyone's draws looking like, kind of going forward in that tournament. So the Olympics start on Saturday at 11 o'clock.
Speaking of first rounds, do they purposefully like mess with the draw to make sure there isn't like country on country matchups in the first round?
I don't know. I think you'd have to look at previous Olympic draws,
because that would kind of defeat the purpose. No,
it defeats the purpose of being random.
Yeah, but also getting the best countries against each other, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I guess they just want to give countries a decent chance of making some progress, but also they know that, you know, country versus country kind of gets more views.
Does it? Oh, I guess because if you're a fan of that country, you ultimately win, I guess. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, unless I think if you're a fan of the country, you want to see them clashing in finals, like we had with the Russian Olympic Committee or Russian Olympic Committee mixed doubles final last year. So there we go. Yeah, Zainab is saying that they can't play a player from your country in the opening round.
Okay.
So I'm assuming they just sort of redraw if that happens.
So there's not going to be Magdalene versus Iga Swiatek in the first round.
No. Also means you're not going to get. Actually, how many seeds are there? It's 16 seeds at the Olympics. So I think all the Americans are going to be seeded. Right. We've hit an hour. I think that's a good time to wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on, Miles, as always.
It's always fun with you, Nick, and I enjoy talking tennis. Thank you guys for giving me the platform, and thank you guys for allowing me to share my shrubbery in your homes and televisions and audio spaces.
Well, we've just finished on Instagram. We'll probably be wrapping up on our other platforms. Yeah, I just want to say, check out Tuned Into Tennis if you want to hear Miles' opinions without me arguing with him. You can do that. He's on pretty much every social media you can think of, right?
Yeah, Tuned Into Tennis is on Twitter/X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. And keep your eyes peeled for some more content from me, Miles David.
Yeah. Tuned Into Tennis has cornered TikTok before talking tennis. We'll probably have you on again at some point, Miles, probably over the US season. Thank you so much for coming on. We have ATP Weekly starting in 20 minutes-ish. So I think a few of you are here for that. So stick around if you want to watch that show coming up on the channel. And yeah, we'll bring you more content from this week where we can. And of course, we'll be diving into Olympic content coming in next week, including our next WTA Weekly show. Looking forward to all that. But until then, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.